So let's start up front. Defensive line, of course, Bobby Brown, a big loss, but A&M is loaded up front. DeMarvin Leal is a guy that I think from a national perspective could be a breakout player as a superstar type.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think he's kind of ready to have a huge year, and he's a guy that you can move all over the defensive line, and so that's been huge for A&M the past couple of years. He just does so many things well. He makes plays in the backfield. He's a smart player. Can read the run. Can read play action, and it's exactly the type of guy you want leading your defense. I think Jimbo Fisher's talked before about how much he just loves working and practicing and lifting and film and everything that goes into football, and that's a high praise for a kid that's only going into his third year in college to be that mature and have that sort of perspective. I think he's gonna be a really good player, and he probably one of the top players. He'll probably hear his name called early in next year's draft.
Yeah, 7 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and a pick for DeMarvin Leal. So as we run across the defensive line that, again, is stacked, how do you sort things out?
Yeah, I think it was a big boost for them. They've kind of had a couple guys that opted to take advantage of that extra year. And so when you look at just why this defense is stacked, I think that's one of the big things. Jaden Peavy opting to come back for another year will probably help lessen the load a little bit from Bobby Brown departing. You can have him and McKinley Jackson together. McKinley Jackson's another guy I could see having just a huge year now that he steps into a more prominent role. And Michael Clemens also coming back for another year. He started to really flash and break out, and then missed the second half of the year with an injury. And so getting him back is a huge deal. He started to be a guy that could make more plays in the backfield and sack the quarterback, which is something he had struggled with beforehand. So having him back, you look at Tyree Johnson, that's another big guy to have back along the defensive line at kind of that weak side defensive end spot. And then you add a couple players in Shamar Turner and Tunmise Adelaide, who, have the ability to come in and contribute right away. Not in a tremendously huge role, but I don't think you need him to. And you have a guy like DeMarvin Leal and McKinley Jackson and Jaden Peavy there. But I think they're both certainly have a chance to factor in right away, along with a guy like Isaiah Rakes, who, is heading into his second year and, had a really good spring. And so I think those are some guys to keep an eye on along the defensive line.
Yeah, you mentioned Clemens flashing on tape, also on the stat sheet for a guy that only had 14 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. So he was in the backfield.
Yeah, he missed the second half of the year with an ankle injury, and then ended up, I believe he ended up getting surgery for it, and was going to come back late in the year. But I mean, to only do that in 5 or so games was really impressive, and I think it was a smart decision on his part to come back for that extra year. Because if he can kind of carry on that sort of production, he could work his way into, being drafted next year. And, it's obviously a huge boost for A&M to have him back.